All right, how's it going? Let's take a look at doing some order of operations. I've got several examples. Got about 9 of them. So, and they get more difficult as we go. So, watch the whole video. I try to do everything of what you would come across. So, before we get started, let's look at the order of operation. So, the first thing we have to look at is parentheses and grouping symbols. Okay, you simplify all your expressions inside the parentheses or group or other grouping symbols, working on the innermost parentheses first. So you start on the inside and you work your way out if you have multiple grouping symbols or parentheses. Next, we look at exponents. Simplify all your all of your expressions with exponents, and then we do multiplication and division. Okay, now this is what's really important here. On the multiplication and division, you do it in the order it appears, left to right. Okay, and multiplication and division, they have equal priority. They're the same. Okay, you do all the multiplication and division left to right. And then the same thing, and then last, addition and subtraction. That's like the multiplication and division. You do it in order from left to right. All right, and addition and subtraction, they have the same priority. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. All right, so I've got 3 problems here. Let's start with the first one. So we've got 2 plus 6 times 3. All right, so parentheses, exponents. We don't have either one of those. Okay, no parentheses or grouping symbols. So now we go to multiplication and division. Well, you can see we have multiplication right here. So we have to do this multiplication before we do the addition. So this is going to equal 2 plus, and then 6 times 3, I'm going to multiply the 6 and the 3. That's 18. All right, and then I can go ahead and add. So 2 plus 18 is 20. And there's your answer. All right. So now let's look at the next problem. All right. So the next problem, 3 squared minus 18 divided by 11 minus 5. All right. So let's look. Parentheses and grouping symbols. Well, we have that. We've got this 11 minus 5 here. Let me go ahead and let me change colors. All right, we got 11 minus 5 here. All right, so we have to do what's inside the parentheses first. So this is going to be 3 squared minus 18 divided by, and then 11 minus 5 is 6. Okay, so I did what's inside the parentheses first. All right, now let's look and see what I have. Well, no more parentheses, but I have exponents. So I've got to go to the exponent, the 3 squared. So that's going to give me 3 squared is 9 minus 18 divided by 6. All right. Now I've done the exponent. Now let's keep going. What about multiplication and division? Yes, I've got division right here. So I've got to do this division before I can subtract. So this is 9 minus, and then 18 divided by 6. I'm doing this right now. 18 divided by 6, that's 3. And then 9 minus 3 is 6. All right. What about the next problem? All right. So we've got 9 plus 12 divided by 3 plus 4. All right. So we've got parentheses. So I'll work inside the parentheses first. So 9 plus 12, that gives me 21 divided by, and then add what's inside these parentheses. 3 plus 4 is 7. All right, so I worked inside the parentheses. I have no exponents. Now let's go to multiplication and division. 21 divided by 7 is 3. All right, so let's go to the next set of problems. All right, we've got 33 divided by 3 plus 8 times 2. All right, so let's check. Parentheses and grouping symbols. Well, we have none. Exponents. We have none. Now let's go to multiplication and division. We have multiplication and division. We actually have both, don't we? But remember what it said. It says do it in the order it appears, left to right. All right, so I'm going to do the division first. And so 33 divided by 3, that's 11, plus 8 times 2. Okay. All right. Now, look, I could have went ahead and multiplied the 8 and the 2 in that step and put 16. All right. But what I'm doing with these problems is I'm just doing it one step at a time. And if you will do that, it'll less likely you're going to make a careless mistake. Okay, or mess it up. Just take it one step at a time. Don't try to do everything in one step. All right, so now we've got 11 plus 8 times 2. Well, I've got to do this multiplication first. So I get 11 plus, and 8 times 2 is 16. And now I can add the 2. 11 plus 16 is 27. All right. All right, so what about the next one? 9 minus 2 plus 8 times 4 minus 7 squared. All right, parentheses. I've got parentheses, so let's work inside the parentheses first. So I've got to work inside here first. All right, so I've got 9 minus. Now, I'm inside the parentheses. So what I'm doing now is I'm just treating this like its own problem. I've got to follow the order of operations inside the parentheses. All right. So I've got 2 plus 8 times 4. Well, I've got to do this multiplication before I do the addition. Okay. So that's going to be 2 plus, and then 8 times 4. That gives me 32 minus 7 squared. Now look, I could have squared the 7, but I didn't. I'm just do it one step at a time. All right, so I'm still inside the parentheses because I can still simplify this. So this is going to be 9 minus, and then 2 plus 32 is 34 minus 7 squared. All right. So I've worked inside the parentheses. Now I need to do what? Let's look at exponents. I've got exponents. So this is going to be 9 minus 34 minus 7 squared. That's 49. All right, so I know what some of you are probably thinking. Why is that not positive 49? Okay, so let's look at that. That's a common question. All right, so we've got minus 7 squared, right? Well, minus 7 squared is negative 49. Negative 7 squared is positive 49. What you've got to understand, this squared is on the 7. It's not on the minus sign, okay? This is 7 squared, which is 49, and then it's got a minus sign in front of it, so that makes it minus 49. Okay, so don't get this confused with this. All right. So now let's see what we've got. So now we've done all the exponents. There's no multiplication or division. So now we go to addition and subtraction. Well, we've got subtraction, and yes, you could subtract all those at one time, but let's just do the 9 minus 34. So 9 minus 34 is negative 25. And then I'll put my minus 49. And then I do negative 25 minus 49. And that is going to give me negative 74. And there's your answer. All right, so let's look at the next problem. So I've got 5 and then brackets 2 plus 4, and then in parentheses 3 minus 2, close brackets. Now look, when you see the brackets here, that would be the same thing if those were parentheses also. Okay, they just put brackets so you can distinguish these grouping symbols from these grouping symbols. All right, so we work inside the parentheses first. But remember what it said. You start with the innermost and work your way out. So I'm going inside the grouping symbols here. Okay, and when I get in here, well, I've got to work inside the parentheses here first. All right, so that's going to be 5 times 2 plus 4 times, and I'm working inside here, so that's 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, and then that equals 5, and I'm still inside these brackets here. So let's look at this, 2 plus 4 times 1. Well, this is multiplication here. Multiplication comes before addition. So that's going to be 2 plus, and 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, and then this is 5 times, still inside the grouping symbols, 2 plus 4 is 6. Well, it's a bracket. And then 5 times 6, I do my multiplication, that is 30. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. All right, so I've got, and I don't know if you can tell, these lines here, let me just kind of write over them a little bit like this. These are absolute value symbols. Those are grouping symbols, okay? So I've got the absolute value of -6 minus 5 times -8 plus 3 squared. All right, so we're working inside the grouping symbols, which is inside these absolute value symbols here. All right, so I've got -6 minus 5, which that would give me the absolute value of -11 times -8 plus 3 squared. All right, and then I'm going to take the absolute value of -11, and we know absolute value is positive, so that's going to be 11 times -8 plus 3 squared. All right, so I worked inside all of my grouping symbols first. All right, now let's see what I have. Well, I've got multiplication and I've got an exponent here. Well, exponents come before multiplication and division, so we need to square the 3. And so that's going to be 11 times -8 plus 9. All right. And so now I got to do the multiplication before I do the addition. So 11 times -8, that's -88 plus 9. And then I can go ahead and do my addition there. So -88 plus 9, that's going to give me -79. All right, we got 2 more. Hope you've been hanging in. If you have, that's good. All right, so let's look at this one. All right, so we've got multiplication, and then we've got some grouping symbols here, so we need to do the grouping symbols before anything else. So let's work inside the grouping symbols first. So that's going to be -12 times -3/4 minus. All right, so now I'm inside the grouping symbols working. I've got to follow my order of operations in there. Okay, no exponents. I do have multiplication and division. I have to do that in the order it appears, left to right. All right, so 6 times 5 is 30, divided by 3, all right, equals -12 times -3/4 minus. All right, so I've got 30 divided by 3 is 10. So that's going to be 10 here. I don't have to put that in parentheses. I mean, you can if you want, but you don't have to. All right, now let's look at this. All right, so I have to multiply this before I can do the subtraction. So I've got -12 times -3/4. Well, remember, this is like -12 over 1. So look at this. The 4 cancels and the 12 cancels, and I'm left with 3. So I've got what? -3 times -3 is 9. and then minus 10. And now I can subtract them. That gives me negative 1. All right, last problem. All right, oh, look at this. We've got a fraction. All right, not a big deal. All you have to do when you're doing a fraction, just pretend like it's two different problems. Pretend like you're working two different problems right on top of each other. Okay? Work on the numerator separately from the denominator. Okay? So let's look at this. All right. So just forget about the denominator and let's just look at the numerator. Okay? So looking at the numerator only. No grouping symbols. These parentheses indicate multiplication. Okay? So those aren't grouping symbols like I've got to work inside the parentheses first. Okay? That's not what they are. They represent multiplication. So I've got multiplication. I don't have any exponents in the numerator. I've got multiplication. I've got to do it in the order it appears, left to right. So I've got 2 times negative 5 is negative 10 plus negative 3 times negative 2. And yes, I could have multiplied that out and said plus 6. Okay, but like I told you earlier in the video, I'm just doing every step one thing at a time. It makes it easier like that. All right. So that's the numerator. Now let's work on the second problem, our denominator. Okay, we're simplifying these separately. All right, so no grouping symbols, but I do have exponents. All right, so I've got negative 8 plus 3 squared is 9 minus 1. All right, so now let's continue. All right, so looking at the numerator only, I've got multiplication. So that's going to give me negative 10 plus negative 3 times negative 2 is 6 over. All right, here I just have addition and subtraction. But remember, we do it in the order it appears, left to right. All right, so I get negative 8 plus 9 is 1. And then minus 1. All right. Now, let's look at the numerator. So that's going to give me negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4 over, and then I've got 1 minus 1 is 0. All right. Now, what does this equal? Think about this for a second. What does that equal? A lot of students, what they'll do is they'll say, well, that's 0. Well, no, it's not 0. Remember, if you have 0 in the denominator of a fraction, that is undefined. All right, and that's your answer. All right, so I hope the video helped. Check out my other videos. Give me a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.